I have told you this so that my joy may be in you, and your joy may be complete. A little phrase, the gospel passage that we have. This scene taken from the Last Supper, as Jesus is about to die, is a wonderful and powerful discourse, frequently referred to as the Last Supper discourse. You know, as Jesus focuses in on what his death means. But I want to back up just a little bit to the first reading. All these days, past couple of weeks, and those who attend daily Mass have heard me talk a little bit about this. We've been in this time when belief in Jesus, his resurrection, first was clarified in the first couple of weeks of the Easter readings. You know, Jesus really is risen from the dead. Believe it. And here's the testimony of those who believe it. And then it's now passed into the second part of the season, where if Jesus really is risen from the dead, what does that mean? And how do we share that with others? And I've often thought what it must have been like to be a Jew hearing this message. 2,000 years ago, living maybe in a small village on the outskirts of Jerusalem, you hear the message, and you see Peter and the disciples going around and doing a stunt like he does today. He goes into the home of a pagan, and he has them baptized. What's that all about? For 3,000 years, my identity has been around circumcision, the laws of kosher, and keeping the 10 Commandments. That's how I knew who I was. That's how I knew what I was. That's how I knew what my life was about. That shaped my world. And you walk in and tell me, no, we're going to go this way. You're out of your mind. I think we're lucky that all the early Christians didn't get stoned or crucified. They were revolutionary as they turned society upside down. And yet, there were some who heard it and trusted. They allowed God to lead them in a way that they couldn't control. They couldn't predict. They couldn't even get a hold of and totally understand. Is that what faith in Jesus does to us? I mean, how did the early apostles know? How did they have the courage to do this? How did they have the courage to take everything that their great-grandmother, their grandmother, their mother, their sisters had taught them, everything they had taught to their brothers and sisters and their children, and set it aside and become totally different people? Judaism was not about attracting converts. Judaism was not about letting people in. Judaism was not about inclusivity. It was about exclusivity. We are the chosen people of God. We are the ones that God loves. You are the Gentiles. How do we have the courage to do that? How do I, in my little village outside of Jerusalem, have the courage to stand up and completely reshape my life, my actions, my thinking? I think it only comes from the power of the sacrament, the power of the grace of God that we hear in the gospel today. My commandment to you is this, that you love one another. I have come so that your joy, my joy, can be in you, and your joy may be complete. Now, I don't know about you, but from where I stand, Jesus failed. Because from where I stand, and I mean physically where I sit in the front of the church, when I look out at the church, we are frequently the least joyful people on the face of the planet. You know, it's like, okay, get us out of here on time. There's not going to be any more calamari left. Let's go. Come on. And we don't often smile. You know? You don't smile in church. This is serious business. Of course it is. That's why we should smile. Because it's the seriousness of our life. It's the seriousness of everything that we think and believe. There's nothing more serious than God. And nothing more joyful than God. I have come so that my joy may be in you. My joy may be in you. And your joy may be complete. And the way that we experience this is in those people who take the gospel seriously and live it. My commandment to you is this, that you love one another as I have loved you. To be willing to sacrifice for each other. To be willing to sacrifice for those in our family. But beyond that, to be willing to sacrifice for the other, even the ones we don't like or agree with. Because that is what Jesus did for us. That is what Jesus did for us. Very often we hear that phrase, don't the pagans do as such? You know, it's easy to like the people who like us. It's easy to like the people who agree with us. It's easy to like the people who do things the way we think it should be done. But what about loving the people that we don't like? What about loving the people we don't agree with? What about loving those that we think are just darn wrong? No greater love has anyone than this, that they lay down their life for a friend. You are my friends. And that's said not just to those of us who walk through the front door. It is said to all people. That is a tough challenge. And there are days when I go to bed and I say, God, forgive me, because today I was terrible at it. Help me to do better tomorrow. Help me to want to do better tomorrow. And that phrase of the gospel today echoes time and time again. I have come that my joy may be in you and your joy may be complete. Today, may our joy be a little bit more complete because we have learned to live the love that God shares with us, that abundant, generous love, shared around the dinner table, shared over at Gino's or wherever you're going to end up, shared anywhere that we are, as we are constantly reflecting God's love to us in our love for others. May this be a day when we grow in joy.